Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers with another running shoe review. In this video, myself, Kieran and Mike are going to be doing a full review of the Saucony Triumph 21. Let's have a look. Saucony Triumph 21 costs £170 or $160. It weighs in at 280 grams or 9.9 ounces for men in a size 8. The drop is 10mm. Although the Triumph 20 saw a number of updates over its predecessor, the 21's changes are largely made across the upper. The new design gets a revamped flat knit material to improve fit, as well as provide breathability, along with a modified lacing system for better lockdown. The shoe features the same PWRRUN Plus cushioning in the midsole and sockliner, an impressively balanced foam that manages to feel soft while still providing a good level of energy return. There's also a generous level of outsole rubber to protect that foam and deliver a high level of grip across varied road conditions. Finally, there's a heel lock design to hold the foot in place and a pull tab at the rear to make getting the shoe easier to pull on and off. The shoe is also slightly heavier than the previous version.
So fit for me on the Saucony Triumph 21 has been pretty good overall. I have this in a UK size 8. I had the 20 and a 19 in a UK size 8 as well. No problems in terms of the fit with those shoes. I wouldn't have entertained needing to go half size up, half size down, maybe even a full size either. And I think in terms of what you're getting here on the Triumph 21, obviously the headline story here is that you're getting this kind of new upper. That's the big kind of change here. And I do feel like when you kind of compare the two shoes or compare it to the previous version, is that maybe it has opened up a little bit more, particularly up front here in the toes and going a little bit further back into the middle of the shoe as well, kind of opening things up, making it feel a little bit more roomy. When you think about the types of runs this shoe is designed for, kind of long, easy recovery style runs where you need that your feet to kind of splay out a little bit more, I think that's a positive thing. I think that kind of changing upper really kind of lends itself to offering that kind of more spacious feel in this shoe. In terms of lockdown, absolutely fine. I've got a kind of good kind of feel in terms of the laces on top of the tongue. It's a pretty similar padded tongue to the previous Triumph. Similar leather padding on the collar as well too. Now a little thing for me, and it's not going to be for everyone, but it has changed, or something's changed how the back of the shoe kind of is designed. So it's previously a little bit more narrow here, where it's a little bit flatter here on the Triumph 21. Now I found this kind of more narrow design on the previous two versions of the shoes have kind of been an issue for me in terms of they've kind of lost a bit of shape, and it made it a little bit uncomfortable to wear over longer period and longer term testing. Now I haven't found that yet with the Triumph 21. I'm hoping that's kind of improved that kind of little issue. Maybe it's personal to me, but ultimately in terms of the fit itself, as I said, the UK size 8 was absolutely fine for me. It was a similar story on the previous two Triumphs that I've tested and kind of used long term as well. So I think I would advise going true to size in this shoe based on my testing.
So when it comes to fit, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my usual size. Like the PWRRUN we've just reviewed, I think these come up ever so slightly long in the toe, but if you like a good inch between your little piggies and the end of the toe box, I think these will do nicely. There's about that much distance. And on the run, I had no issues with that extra room. So I'd be happy recommending going true to size in these shoes.
Fit for me in the Triumph 21, I'm an 8. This is a size 8 UK. It's spot on. I definitely wouldn't size up or down in this shoe. There's plenty of space in the forefoot, so you can move your feet around, but there's not too much space. So I definitely would stay to my size in this shoe. The upper, it has a new upper in it, this new breathable upper design. I found it to be very comfortable. I could get a nice lockdown fit quite easily. So I'm very happy in my UK size.
So onto the run test then, and for my run test I've done just short of 20 miles in this one. That included a 1:45 half marathon test with a mix of paces thrown in from easy up to marathon pace, plus a couple of shorter, easier plods. Most of that was on road or tarmac pavements, some of it was on river paths, and there was a little bit of cobbles thrown in as well. Now Saucony describes the Triumph 21 as a light and plush performance shoe that's built for those who need a little more out of their daily miles. We've got a daily trainer here that's a little bit more plush. There's a huge emphasis here on the comfort as well. And I think this shoe ticks that box really nicely. It offers good step-in comfort. It manages to feel plush and padded, I think, without feeling bulky and heavy like some shoes can. The uppers hug and wrap well without being restrictive. The lockdown for me was good. There was no movement, no slipping, no rubbing or hot spots to speak of on those 1:45 half that I did. It It's definitely one of those shoes I think that just feels right on the foot pretty fast the moment you put it on. When it comes to the ride, I found it light and agile enough. Where some shoes can leave you feeling like they're kind of interfering with your run, I think this is a shoe that works with you. It sort of disappears in a way. I think that's really nice. And the PWRRUN Plus midsole and sockliner make for a soft, cradled landing, but they return just at the right time with enough kind of energy and firmness to help you clip through your stride fairly naturally. I found them better moving at slow paces than, or mid to level pace, slow to mid level pace than I did my marathon pace. But they're actually pretty comfortable marathon pace too. In the last half hour of that half marathon test though, perhaps they weren't offering the extra assistance that you might get from something like a Speed 3 or other shoes. But on the flip, I think they offer good protection for more ragged form when in those later miles, and that bigger 10mm drop I think certainly helps with that. Now, having recently been testing the PWRRUN almost alongside these, I have to say I actually think I preferred the Triumph 21, or at least I don't think there's a huge difference here. I didn't notice. So I think that's really interesting. I'm going to be interested to do like a side-by-side to see, considering this one is £30 cheaper than the PWRRUN Pro. I think they might make a good case for a head-to-head on those, so maybe we'll have that on the channel later.
So the Triumph 20 was our top cushion shoe in our best running shoe guide that we did a couple of months back, and for good reason. It's a fantastic versatile shoe that really works for anybody that is looking for a balanced cushioned running shoe. I'm happy to say that the Saucony Triumph 21 is still fantastic. It really is basically the Triumph 20 with a new upper on it. There's not any major differences that have been made to this shoe. So if you're a big fan of the Triumph 20, you're not going to get much more from this apart from a slightly modified upper. That isn't necessarily a bad thing because we gave it our best shoe, cushion shoe, so it must be doing something right. But if you're looking at the shoe and thinking, oh, I might get the new one because I really like the Triumph 20, you're not going to get any major differences from it. So if you haven't tried the Triumph 20 or you haven't tried any of the Triumph line, the Triumph used to be one of the big cushion shoes that was out. It was what you would class as a max cushion shoe a few years ago. Now, with the launch of so many massive max cushion shoes, it's actually lessened the level of cushioning in comparison to those shoes. So it's a bit more of a versatile daily cushion shoe than a max cushion shoe now. It pretty much does everything you'd want from a cushion shoe, but it's just got a little bit more to it. And I really like this shoe because I find that it's a fantastic shoe for using for slow runs, easy runs, recovery runs, long runs. But also there's a little bit more to this shoe than what you might get from some other big stack shoes like the New Balance More V4 or something like the Invincible 3. Those shoes are really very heavily designed for the easy runs, the cushion runs, the making you feel like you're enjoying the run at a nice slow pace. The Triumph 21 can do that, but it's also, it has a little bit more about it. I really like using this shoe when I'm marathon training because I can go out, I can do all my easy runs, all of my cushioned runs in it that I just want something really comfortable. But also if I go out and I think, oh, I'm going to pick up the pace a bit today, I might try a little bit more at tempo pace, I might push myself a bit further. The Triumph 21 can do that. There's a little bit more bounce in the midsole than you might get in a lot of cushion shoes. There's a nice bit of a nice rolling action to it, a nice smooth turnover, and I find it very easy to cruise at a nice consistent pace in this. If I'm running at probably a bit lower than my marathon pace, so if I'm running at like 420 to 440 minute kilometers, this is a great shoe for that. If I'm doing a long distance run, it just feels really comfortable, just cruises you along, and it's just faultless really. It's really nicely balanced when it comes to those sorts of runs. That balance is largely due to that PWRRUN Plus midsole foam, which is soft to the touch. It feels soft when you're running in it. It feels a bit soft, but it's not soft to the point where you're actually losing momentum when you're running. There's still a little bit of bounce in it, and it just has a nice bit of pop. Not massive, but I really do notice it when I'm running in the shoe in comparison to other cushion shoes like the New Balance More V4, which has no pop whatsoever, just feels very comfortable. And I think that's really where the Triumph 21 sits. It's a great shoe if you want to tick a lot of different boxes, but you really want a cushion shoe above all else. And I would say that if you're the sort of runner that wants a shoe to run a marathon in or a half marathon, and maybe you're not going for a 4-hour marathon time, maybe you just want to finish the race and you want to have one comfortable shoe to do all your training in and cross the finishing line in, I think the Triumph 21 is a great shoe to go through for that, because it will follow you along to an extent as you improve your running. So if you're just starting out running, you pick the shoe up, it will follow you along to a point where you can get faster and faster, and eventually you will cap out and you'll need a faster shoe, but it will follow a bit of that journey, whereas you won't get that from a lot of cushion shoes. Other things that I'd say about this, the new upper is, I prefer it to the Triumph 20. Not massively. I think it's a minor improvement. I do think it's a bit more breathable. I do think it feels a little bit lighter and thinner than the Triumph 20. I didn't dislike that upper at all. I just think this is a minor improvement. Apart from that, there's not really any major updates to talk about. The outsole is pretty much the same. Fantastic outsole on the Triumph 21. It's a lovely covering of rubber on there. Very good at gripping on all different road conditions when it's wet. If it's a bit gravelly and things like that, it's got a good solid rubber on the outsole and it does a great job.
So I spent a lot of running time in the Triumph 19 and the 20, and obviously the changes between those two shoes are pretty dramatic in terms of what Saucony did, and in terms of what you're getting on the 20 up to the newer 21, it's not as dramatic. Obviously the upper has changed here, but ultimately in terms of what you're getting the midsole and the outsole, it's pretty much what we got on Saucony Triumph 20. So in terms of the types of runs that I think it excels at, I think it's pretty much the same. I think it's still a shoe that you would want to go and run kind of relatively easy in, kind of you can run your longer runs in, and you get enough in terms of that kind of level of cushioning, the kind of protection. I think you get a kind of, modestly kind of rocker kind of feel in it, kind of, make sure you get quite smoothly through those transitions as well and make it feel quite nice to kind of run, longer in as well. As I said, the midsole, it's obviously a PWRRUN Plus midsole again, which is soft but not overly plush, not something like what you get on the kind of Gel Nimbus 25. That's very plush, I think, in comparison. But I think you get a little bit of bounce, so there's some enjoyment in those kind of slower runs as well, but it's not too aggressive. Something like the Nike Invisible 3, it's not quite there in terms of that. And yeah, in terms of the types of runs that I think it excelled best, it's exactly the same as the Saucony Triumph 20. As I said, in the kind of fit section, I think in terms of what you're getting in the upper, maybe you're getting something a little bit more roomy here, which I think is a positive thing. And I think initially I didn't think it would be a big issue to have that change in the upper, and I think Saucony has done this with a few shoes which changed the upper and it hasn't really drastically made a massive difference, but I do think changing the upper has been a positive thing for the Triumph here. So I think that is a reason to potentially upgrade from that shoe if you didn't really get on with the upper on the Triumph 20, and I do think the changes here do make it better suited to the types of runs I think the shoe is still designed for. So outsole wise, I think it hasn't massively changed in terms of what you're getting, and in terms of the level areas where the outsole is really dedicated to. I did a little bit of kind of off-road stuff on it, kind of lighter trails, and I think it's absolutely fine. There's enough kind of grip on the outsole there to kind of handle that as well. Obviously you do still get some that exposed foam here, and that's kind of generally where I've seen the kind of little bit of wear, but ultimately I do think it's a shoe that can handle a lot of mileage like the Triumph 20 can as well, and it's a shoe that I kind of regularly kind of used after kind of reviewing it as well. So I think for me, I do think the ride, the feel of running in the Triumph 21 is a lot like the 20. I think weight wise, I don't think there's a massive difference for me. It's not something I really noticed in terms of that weight. As I said, I think it's the same types of runs it's designed for. I think the outsole is very similar. I think the upper improvements are good improvements as well, and things that can make it a better shoe for kind of those slower, easy, longer runs. I do think you can potentially pick the pace up in this a little bit, but I wouldn't say doing speed work or anything like that. And I think that really comes down to the fact that you're getting that kind of slight rocker feel in it that gives you that feeling that you can run a little bit slightly steadier, kind of slightly quicker pace. But ultimately I think this is still a shoe that you run slow, easy, long in, and it will give you a very similar experience to the Saucony Triumph 20 with an upper that I think is an improvement on the previous one.
So my verdict on the Triumph 21 is that it is more of the same of what you got from the Triumph 20. It's a fantastic, balanced cushion shoe that can actually do a bit more. So if you're looking for a cushion shoe, but you might want to run a little bit faster in it, you might want to pick up the pace on some runs, you might want to do a little bit of interval training, not that fast, but you maybe want to just have something that can do a bit more. Triumph 21 is great for that. It's definitely veering more towards the world of daily shoes these days than just being an all-out max cushion shoe. Other alternatives, I would say, to the Triumph 21. The Brooks Glycerin 20 is probably the closest you're going to get to the Triumph 21. That's a very solid, all-rounder cushion shoe that can do lots of different things. I wouldn't say it's as versatile as the Triumph 21, but it's almost there. I prefer the Triumph 21 to that. If you're looking at cushion shoes and you really want something that is purely for easy day, purely for recovery runs and really slow, comfortable long runs, there are other options you can look at. You could look at the New Balance More V4, which is my other favourite cushion shoe. That doesn't have the versatility of the Triumph 21, but it's a great shoe. I love cruising around in that shoe at a nice slow pace. There's a lot of cushioning in the bottom. There's a really wide base on it. It just really feels nice to wear for those longer runs. Maybe if you want full-on softless, you probably go for the Nike Invincible 3. But if you're going for the Nike Invincible 3, you're going to lack a lot of versatility. So it's really not a shoe that is designed to do anything more than those easy, slow runs. But it's very nice for those.
So my verdict on the Saucony Triumph 21 is that it's pretty much more of the same in terms of we've got the Triumph 20, and I think if you like the Triumph 20, you didn't absolutely love the upper, you wanted a bit more in terms of that upper, in terms of the space and the room, then I think this shoe gives you that. As I said, personal to me, but I do like the fact that it's slightly changed in terms of design at the back of the shoe as well. It's not going to be an issue for everyone, but I think, yeah, ultimately, yeah, if you really didn't get on with the upper and the Triumph 20, then this will definitely feel like a better shoe to run in, because ultimately it's the same, type of experience in terms of the ride, in terms of the, grip and performance and the types of runs that it's designed for. Long, slow, easy recovery runs, potentially the scope to pick the pace up a little bit, but I wouldn't be using it for kind of speed work per se. When you look at other shoes, I think, naturally you have to think about other shoes in Saucony's range. I think things like the Saucony Ride, that's a touch firmer, I think a little bit more versatile than this shoe. I think obviously we've tested the Saucony Kinvara Pro recently, and that obviously feels that it has a little bit more of an aggressive ride in it. Really kind of, it's got that speed roll technology that Saucony uses at top end shoes to give you a bit more of a kind of clearer kind of feel, and that carbon plate, so it's more race focused, but a kind of bigger from a bigger shoe. Then you look outside, and I think shoes that kind of sit in this same kind of category, so things like the Asics Gel Nimbus 25, Nike Invincible 3, I think New Balance More V4 as well. Those are shoes that I think kind of offer or promise to offer a similar kind of experience with the Triumph 21. I think you compare it to something like the Asics Gel Nimbus 25. I think the Gel Nimbus 25 is a lot more plush feeling in terms of that midsole. I don't think the ride is as lively on the Gel Nimbus 25 compared to the Triumph 21. I think you look at things like the More V4, I found that a touch heavy for me, but again, I think the rocker and the feeling of that shoe feels a little bit nicer, or kind of similar to what you get on the Triumph 21. The Invincible 3, obviously you definitely got a little more bounce in that midsole. Again, I think a little bit more versatile, you can run a little bit quicker in that shoe if you want to. And then maybe things like the Hoka Clifton as well, which you're going to use to soak up a lot of miles, has a good level of cushioning. But again, I think the Triumph 21 in comparison offers a little bit more in terms of that ride compared to the Clifton, and I would say it's a little bit more versatile on the Clifton as well, personally. So yeah, I think in terms of fitting with those other shoes, I think it absolutely does. And I think, yeah, if you like the Triumph 20, you didn't absolutely love the upper and was looking for upper improvements and the same ride and experience, then that's what you get on the Triumph 21.
Now, when it comes to my verdict, it's a bit mixed, really. I really enjoyed these shoes. I think they tick a lot of the right boxes. I think there's a lot here that many runners are going to like. There's good balanced cushioning that's not too soft, with pretty good response and roll through. I think there's great step-in comfort, good disappearing feel on the foot. They're pretty light, they're pretty agile. Generally, I think they're a nice, easy shoe to run in that offers an enticing amount of versatility, though arguably I think they're better at kind of the lower end of the paces than they are at the faster end. And then there's a question for me really is whether or not they offer better performance than some of the stiff competition in this daily trainer space, particularly because these are hitting the sort of top end. And for that, we need to factor in the value. At £170, they're pushing the top of this price bracket when it comes to daily trainers. Now, for me, I think they're as good, if not better, as the Kinvara Pro that I've said. They're cheaper than that. So if you're weighing those two up, I think you might be able to save yourself a few bucks, but we will do a head-to-head of those two shoes later on. I'm not too sure I'd choose these over the Speed 3 as well, considering the Speed 3 are much cheaper now too, and I think they're a bit better at the higher paces. Then there's shoes like the On Cloud Surfer 7, I think probably offer more versatility for £20 less. I'd also argue that things like the Hoka Mach 5 or even the Mach X offer as much performance for a chunk less. So my top line is this. It's a very capable shoe that gets a lot right, but it may be coming in a little overpriced compared to the competition. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you buy it and run in it, but I think maybe, yeah, you might be able to save yourself a few quid in terms of the performance you're going to get by buying something different.
So that's it from us on this review of the Triumph 21. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell. And don't forget that in the caption below, you can also find a link to the latest podcast. And if you're watching this video in July, it's all about cushion shoes. So you might want to have a listen to that. I think we do mention the Triumph 21 in that as well. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.